Okay, let's get started. Welcome everybody to another CTC webinar. Today we're going to be talking about corridors, and this is an introduction. This is going to be a very high level, not much detail. Really just want to kind of show the UI basically and some of the settings that are in there. So we're not going to cover a lot of detail. This is going to be part of a continuing series for the following 3 weeks where we're going to break down more of the tool and kind of show you how they work in a little more detail. But to keep things shorter today and to eliminate further detail on some of that kind of stuff, I really just want to show the tools today and kind of explain a little bit about them. So my name is Tony Crick. I'm the Civil Product Manager here at CTC Software. As we go along here, if you have any questions, go ahead and type them into the question panel of the GoTo webinar there. And if there's anything in particular you would like to see in the upcoming webinars, they're on our calendar page on the website. So if you want to go there and see what's coming up, if you have any suggestions or something you want to see, go ahead and contact us, or you can type it into the questions panel here and I'll make note of those to see if we can kind of clear some things up or show you what you might want to see as we go along here. So with that, this is part of our productivity tools, our SIM productivity tools, and this is part of the SIM project suite today. It's intended for the everyday Civil 3D user creating design productions, and it works back to the last versions of Civil 3D, now back to 2020. So corridors, it's part of the SIM project, as I mentioned before. And why was it developed? To make it more versatile than the native tools. We use similar interfaces to the native tools, and it streamlined the interface with additional functions and giving us the ability to auto select things. Again, we'll be getting into more of that later. We'll just kind of touch on that today. And through the auto targeting and some of the other things, the filtering, you can save some time over the native tools. So what is it? It's for corridors is a 4-part tool, and the corridor cleanup, that basically just removes multiple targets. It streamlines that, I guess, task a bit, makes it less tedious to do that kind of functionality. So you don't have to do things one at a time. We can pretty much go through and hit the cleanup and select what targets we want to get rid of. So it really speeds that up, and it is a free tool. So if you download the trial version to kind of check these things out and see what they do for you, that corridor cleanup will always be available to you. And then we have Corridor Mapper, the next one. It's a workflow. Typically our tools are workflow from left to right, and kind of how you do things here. So then we have Corridor Mapper, and within that, as you can see from the screenshot, there are 4 separate functions to it. So we have setup targets, auto map targets, rename layers and subassemblies, and layers from subassemblies. What it really does is it helps for automatic target linking. Once you've created all of your assemblies and your corridor, it helps speed things up when you're doing editing of those parts of your corridor. So the corridor splitter is the next one in the line there. It's very similar to native tools. Corridor merger also similar to native tools. Does pretty much the same functions. No mystery there. The beauty of it is you're working in corridors and you have our tools up. You don't need to switch to the Civil 3D tabs to do those things. So you can leave one tab open if that's what you're doing. So with that, let's open up a drawing and let's walk our way through corridor tools. All right, so here is it's already set up. We have a corridor set up here. We have created some finished ground profiles. We have some sub-assemblies here that are being used or will be used in the corridor. Typical things to set up to work with corridors. So let's first open up just quickly corridor cleanup tool here. I'm not going to do any of these things today, like I said. I just want to show you what they do. So you see one selected, it's going to hit enter, and this is what you get here. This is a very, very basic, very simple, more of a demonstration type of thing, but you can see right here what you can do. And again, our typical user interface, if you've used our tools before, you're probably familiar with seeing some of these things here. We have the same pull down for this. If you want to see videos on any of our tools, these are targeted for that particular tool when you see them in the window here, and then the about right here. So we currently have 24.1 as our latest release. If you don't have it, you own our tools, just go get it right here, click right here, and you should be able to download the latest and get going on it. We have made many improvements over the last 6 months. So again, here is the corridor cleanup. We will get to that in some of our subsequent webcasts here, but we can toggle different things on and off here. Like I said, similar to native tools, and none of this is proprietary, so it's all functioning with and within Civil 3D. So the selected corridors and regions, the users can check, you can check and uncheck the desired corridor baselines, target removal. That one, I'll open it up again. That one we have a very basic, like I said. Let me just reselect it here. So again, just the basics right there. And the targets to remove, this shows just what the targets are. So pretty simple and a free tool that can help and save a lot of time if you have a very complicated one. As a matter of fact, I have a much more complicated one here. We'll be using some of these in upcoming webinars as well, but let's open that one and see what it looks like when you've got a more complex type of situation. So here you can see, now we have a lot more there. So there's a lot of stuff here. We might need to clean some of that up. We might have some bad targets. We might have some irrelevant targets there, and this will help us clean those up. So let's go over the corridor mapper. And again, workflow from top to bottom for the most part, as with most of our tools. And what corridor mapper is built to do, it allows for, let me get out of this drawing. I don't want to slow this one down. Let's go to this one. Trying to keep this a little shorter because some of our next ones might get longer. So corridor mapper will allow for the targets to be automatically, and set up targets is what I did, but automatically assigned by mapping the subassemblies to layers, styles, objects, or mirrored from other subassemblies We can do manual selection of targets. And we can also create targets. Oh, then we'll simply create them. Take care of that. And the goal of this for this tool was to completely replace the native target mapping dialog box. It's more dynamic and more functional. So the primary use for this would be to link our layers, styles, object names, and other subassemblies to automatically assign targets for our corridors. We can auto map. We can use over here for auto map targets once they have been defined in your subassemblies. We can come here and help facilitate the mapping of that versus the native going in and opening the dialog, picking through things. So typically in a normal workflow, you would run the setup targets, map the layers, map it to the layers, styles, and other subassemblies, what have you. And then as the targets are drawn, previously mapped layers, we can auto map those as I mentioned before. So the corridor filter drop-down box, that's this right here. If we had more in there, we would see those in here. I only have the one. If you had a development with multiple corridors set up in there, you could come here and pull up just those and set your all your targeting through that. Let me go through the options here because this options is a little bit different. Again, the typical stuff here. Here we can set up here for how we want our defaults to be. So when you create new or bring in new subassemblies, what will be available for our object types. You can have them all on or all off, and that will affect here. You won't have to, when you do them, if you have just feature lines, for example, that you're going to target with your subassemblies, you can just have your feature line selected here and you won't have to mess with anything up here again. But you do have, just because it's set there doesn't mean you can't get them. You can always set what you need to find right here. And then our baseline filter drop down, again, this only has the one, but whatever baselines you have will show up right here, which is this column here as well. So we know that subassembler corridors can get pretty detailed and pretty complicated. This is meant to really streamline things. Then our regions, we only have one region, so that's our region filter right there. Then on the left side here, we have our target tabs right here. So we have existing, in this case, we only have existing ground. Yeah, that's not going to work because it's not set up right. And then we can do it by width and offset. And we have slope and elevation. So slope and elevation will come into play here. And then we want, these are just our defaults right here. So when we created a new subassembly, and it populates here, what will it be doing? So we can have a mirror. So if you set your targets for one side, we can set it to mirror, so it will mirror everything. If everything's the same on the left and right, that's what that one does. Or we can just use our references. And then here too, what do we want it to look for? First thing, you can set this as your default when you have multiple targets. We also can select the surface from over here. Oops, let me pop back to that. We can also select it from over here if we want to. So many different ways to do things. The whole goal here is to save time and frustration of looking through those long lists that you see natively. Just give me a second here. Okay, and some of these, if you've seen any of our videos from the past, you're probably aware that this has been improving along the way. Our latest video, I think the interface here is slightly different. It's been reorganized due to customer feedback to more, I guess, closely resemble what your workflow type might be. So we have the more logical layout of these things now, your subassembly, then what the parameter is. The group replaced our, I think it was our left, right, or not our left, right, our numbered ones. There was a selection box and everything happens on the left or right. So due to feedback, we now just have it as a group. And then the assembly right here too. And all of these are just like anything else. You can click on them to sort them. We have sorting at the top. So moving along here, the group I mentioned, the regions right here that the subassembly is associated with. We can set some filters here too if we want to see what, we know what some of our parts of our subassembly are named. You can filter here if you want to focus down on, that's all I want to change today. Boulevard, maybe daylighting, right of way, that sort of thing. So then we also have slope elevation. I think I touched on that one a little bit, how we set these. So it filters if we have these set to that particular thing. Slope, if we have our slope elevation set on our subassemblies, our assemblies, it pulls in just what we are looking for. So these two are basically the same, width and slope, except that we add the nearest. If multiple targets are, we can pick those again, as I mentioned. So what else can I tell you about this? The styles, so we have all our filtering over here too. I mentioned that in the PowerPoint. And we can include XREF layers into these as well. We want to map to XREF layers, styles, objects, whatever. We can do this by layer. So we can, as soon as we start typing, it starts to filter. We can find our things, whatever we're looking for our targets more easily right there. Same with their styles. Same filters built into it. If you're looking for your daylights, we can drill down on that as well. And objects, all the same stuff. We don't have those here. We can pick in the drawing and go by description. Lots of different ways to get at things to streamline them. I think that's all I had to show you for the setup targets. Let me close that. And again, like I said, we'll be showing more of the functionality of these in upcoming videos. So stay tuned. And then corridor splitter. There we go. Again, like I mentioned, it's very similar to the native tools. So we can get at it right there. This is too basic to do that with, but if we were going to do it natively, you know, you would come up here and do it. So it really is the same functionality. It's just we don't have to change. Once we're using the tools here, the civil or the sim product tools, we don't have to keep switching tabs to do it. And then corridor merger, same basic thing. If we want to, let me switch to this one, the other drawing here. If we wanted to, if we had split this region into, maybe we had a different phase, maybe we had phase one that did this, but we do this all, this is all one corridor. We wanted to split it into phases. If we had this as phase one, let's say, we could split that out. We could split out our intersector, and we had split them out. We could put them back together. And we do that with splitter and or merger. Let me see if I'm missing anything here that I wanted to show you today. Yeah, I don't think there's anything else about the tool I wanted to show you today specifically, other than, like I said, kind of go through here. Oh, let's go through these auto map. I didn't do that. Let's show you what those look like when we open them up. So let me just open, let's go with auto map right here. We'll just go top to bottom. We'll see what some of those things look like. And just like similar tools, of course, we always have to start by selecting our corridor. And then we get this little warning right here. If we've already had targets set up, we can keep those targets or we can remove them if we want to set all new targets. If something changed, I'm going to say just keep them for right now. We get this dialog box right here. It's telling us all the targets that are available. We have this option right here. If we want to include XREF layers, styles, and objects, we can check this on when we do it, and then that controls that. Typical, remember the size, and then confirm targets before assigning. All that really does is gives you another chance to bail out if you think you did something you didn't want to happen. So since we didn't change anything, I'm just going to go ahead here and say okay or yes. And we have a lot of targets in here. And I didn't change anything, so nothing will change. So I didn't get that confirmation that we talked about. And then rename layers and subassemblies. So that pulls open this dialog box right here. And we can rename the subassemblies, we can rename layers. We'll open the options again. Looks just like the other one with a few different selection methods here. Mirror, multiple targets, nearest, farthest. Again, the slope, width, that's what that is. And I'll just go ahead and close that one too. I'm just looking at my notes here, make sure I show everything. And then the layers from subassemblies, this is going to require us to grab an assembly, subassembly. any or all of it. And then we get this dialog box. I will let you know that we have another release due out very soon, where this is getting more versatile, where we can do more things with it. So this, in the next version, 24.2, will look much different than this. And it may be out by the time we get to, hopefully, we get to the other webinars that will be on this, so we can kind of walk our way through these two, and you'll see what a drastic difference this has undertaken. So with that, that's all I have to show today. I know this was really kind of basic and maybe not quite what you were looking for, but I really want to just preface this for those of you that will return to subsequent webinars here, that you kind of get a better feel for what the UI does, so we don't have to spend a lot of time doing it. They could get pretty long as we go along here. And so with that, I don't see any questions coming in or suggestions of things you want to see, but now's a good time to enter them. If you can't think of anything, that's fine too. If it comes to you later, just contact us and let us know, and I will try to get those put into the next webinar. So if there's particular things you want to see, we'll see if we can cover those. So again, this is part of our CTC Sim Project Suite. We also have the Sim Manager Suite. As I mentioned before, this is version 24.1, soon to come out with 24.2. And if you are seeing this for the first time and you don't have it, but you would like to get it, you can contact your local reseller, or you can contact us directly here at CTC Software. And again, as I mentioned, if you have any ideas or you need any help, please feel free to contact us at support, which is at the top of every tool, or to get it from our website. If you pull up our webpage, there's a support button on there as well. So with that, thank you for joining today. I appreciate it, and hopefully we'll see you next week. I'm gonna wait a little bit to see if you have any other questions or suggestions, so I can save those suggestions for upcoming webinars. So again, thank you for spending your time, and we'll see you at our next one. Thank you. Thank you for joining us, and have a great day.